Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Volvo S40 car. The second generation Volvo S40 V50, which debuted in 2003, was a continuation of what its predecessor was, but technically it had nothing in common with it. Currently, it is one of the most attractive stylings and at the same time the cheapest to operate Volvo cars. For relatively little money you can buy a relatively fresh and modern car. The first generation Volvo S40 V40 was an intermediate model, somewhere between the compact and medium class. It was related to the Mitsubishi Charisma, which in terms of durability turned out to be a bad idea, although opinions about this model are extremely different. What is a fact is the not fully developed chassis and engines, only a few of which matched the famous durability of the Swedish brand. The successor was supposed to change everything and erase the stain on the model range, which was clearly the S40. The new generation bore the same designation for the sedan, but the station wagon was marked with the symbol V50. Like its predecessor, it was not an independent design of the Swedish manufacturer, but this time it was not related to Mitsubishi, but to the Ford Focus II. This in turn made it a car stuck between segments for the second time. Although its external dimensions were almost equal to smaller mid-range models, both the floor pan and the interior were more in line with compacts. The Volvo S40 V50 can be described as a premium compact. Its successor, the V40 hatchback, is already a pure-blooded compact, and there was no doubt about that. Since the Volvo S40 V50 is based on the Ford Focus II floor pan, the chassis also has independent suspension for both axles, with a multi-link rear. The rear axle differed slightly in design depending on the body version and engine drive. The Volvo S40 V50 was available not only with front-wheel drive, but also with four-wheel drive, but this does not apply to the version with the engine described. The Volvo S40 V50 had a fairly rich range of engines. The petrol one started with a 1.6-liter engine with 100 horsepower and ended with the 230 horsepower T5 version with a 5-cylinder engine and turbocharging. When it comes to diesels, there was no shortage of economical versions, such as the described 1.6D with 109 or 115 hydrogen phosphide, intermediate 2.0D, 136, 150 and 177 hydrogen phosphide, as well as the top D5 with a capacity of 2.4 L and a power of 180 HP. The engines worked with manual, classic automatic and double-clutch transmissions. The Volvo S40 V50 is a car well protected against corrosion, which translates into a nice look for most used models. The interior also remains in good visual condition, and the impression is improved especially by the leather upholstery, which should not be difficult to find on the secondary market. Unfortunately, the delicate design of the center console can cause problems. It can sometimes freeze, which causes loss of control over the audio system. The air conditioning panel is much less likely to fail. Sometimes, it is enough to turn the car off for a few seconds and the problem disappears, but not the cause. Most often, the plugs at the radio player do not connect and need to be repaired by dismantling the center console, which users call the waterfall. There are tutorials on the web on this topic. Apart from that, the electrics in the Volvo S40 V50 can be considered problem-free, but that does not apply to the engine. The 1.6D unit is nothing more than the 1.6 HDI engine known from Citroëns, Peugeots, Fords, Mazdas, Minis and Suzukis with 109 or 115 HP. Unfortunately, damage to sensors and electronically controlled elements occurs quite often here. Sudden immobilization of this unit and complete inability to restart usually means a failure of the crankshaft position sensor. EGR valve failures are quite common. Another sensitive element is the flow meter. Like any diesel, this engine after a longer mileage, usually 150–200,000 kilometers, suffers from the typical problems of modern designs. A delicate element is the turbocharger lubrication system, which causes more problems in Fords, but Volvo has not eliminated it. The cause is, As is usually the case, too infrequent oil changes and clogging of the line supplying this fluid to the turbocharger. Right after purchase, it is best to check the lubrication system right away and replace the line as a preventive measure. The turbocharger itself is not particularly durable either, but it should last at least 200,000 kilometers. It has variable geometry, so it is relatively expensive, but the popularity of this drive unit has lowered the price of this element anyway. Although the timing belt is used to drive the timing, there is still an additional chain running between the shafts. It is often overlooked when replacing the timing belt, and its stretching can lead to serious failures, and this is not an expensive part. In addition, when replacing the timing belt, it is necessary to replace the accessory belt along with the not very durable crankshaft pulley and the alternator one-way clutch. Most engines also have a maintenance-free particulate filter. Maintenance-free does not mean failure-free, but it can withstand quite long mileages, even 150,000 kilometers, and if the car is used properly, it does not cause any major problems. In addition, it can be regenerated quite easily and cheaply. In engines from the drive family with an energy recovery system, the alternator may fail more often during braking. The use of the start-stop system also indirectly affects the durability of the turbocharger, timing drive and dual-mass flywheel. The last thing is the suspension. The front axle doesn't cause any problems. We have a simple system with a McPherson strut and a wishbone, where the pin and bushings are replaced. Unfortunately, the rear is worse. As for a multi-link design, it is not particularly durable compared to similar Japanese designs, but it is relatively cheap to repair due to the good access to replacements. The paradox is that the fewer elements we replace in one repair, and the most common wear and tear is the connectors and silent blocks, the more we will pay in the long run. One worn element accelerates the wear and tear of another, and the number of repairs increases. It would be best to replace everything with new ones at once and have peace for a long time. A problem when replacing the rear suspension may be the quickly corroding threaded connections. The braking system is solid and cheap to operate, but it is worth knowing that this model was subject to a service campaign concerning the parking brake. The Volvo S40 V50 is the cheapest, modern car of this brand in terms of operation, especially when a well-maintained and efficient 1.6 diesel engine is working under the hood. It can consume small amounts of fuel, and its potential repairs resulting from minor faults, rather than more serious failures, are not particularly expensive. In addition, many elements connecting it to the Focus additionally reduce service costs. The successful design enjoys a good reputation, so you can count on reasonable prices when reselling. Definitely yes, especially if you care about a car of this brand. You will not be disappointed with anything, unless you are looking for extraordinary driving comfort. The Volvo S40 is in no way inferior to other premium compacts. It is also the cheapest Volvo to maintain when it comes to several-year-old models. The 1.6D version has the advantage of further reducing the operating costs of this car, but you should rather be careful with cars with a mileage of over 200,000 kilometers. If you are looking for this model from the beginning of production, naturally aspirated engines will definitely be a better choice. The 2-liter reaches a reasonable 145 HP and can be powered by gas. The Volvo V50 is also an alternative to its twin, the Ford Focus 2 station wagon after the facelift. It is not much more expensive, although people looking for a Ford have a wider choice. Thank you for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what brakes and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro.